I'm not feeling the best as per usual. I'm not feeling the best, especially post United defeat against Newcastle, which we're gonna end. We're gonna start the podcast this way. We're gonna start the podcast with a good old rant, with a good old complain, with a good old moan, because this is the best way to kind of get all of these feelings, all of these emotions, all of this anger, all of this frustration out of me. By blasting, by shouting and screaming. United succumbed to Newcastle's pressure and lost 4-1 away from home. 4-1 away from home. Now, it's a strange game to review because in my opinion, it really wasn't a 4-1 game, Newcastle didn't really tear us apart, but they still won comfortably 4-1, if that makes any sense at all. If that makes any sense at all. It really wasn't a 4-1 game, but Newcastle put us to the sword, and it could be argued they could have probably scored 6 goals if they wanted to. That's the weird game, how it was. It was such a bizarre game. But by and by, what to take away from this is we are far away from competing for the league. Far away, even further from competing to the top 6. And it's also make me question, do you think some of our fans suffer from actual genuine mental health issues? Because I don't understand the optimism. I don't understand the giddiness. I don't understand the toxic positivity based on what you see on the pitch. What do they think is going to happen? Do some of our fans honestly think if we get a better manager in, quote unquote, that we're suddenly going to turn things around? That if we get a striker in that's better than Højlund and Zersky, suddenly we're going to look much more assured. If we get a better goalkeeper in than Onana and Bayinda, that suddenly we're going to be in the top 6. So people think 1 player, 2 player, 3 players going to change this. I don't think so. If you had to ask me, I would say a minimum. And I'm not saying they need to be world class. I'm saying good players of Mazwari standard and up, right? Players that can just come in. I think if you had to ask me as a United fan, we need 7 players of a Mazwari standard and up just to even compete. Just to compete. And I can't remember the last time that Man United signed more than 5 players in one transfer window. We don't usually do that. And Ineos have come in and allegedly we don't have the money to spend anyway. We have to sell to buy. So most likely we're looking at probably 2 to 3 signs in the summer. But that's not going to change nothing in my personal opinion. That might get us top 10, but it's not going to get us top 6. It's not going to get us top 4 based on what I see currently. And it's not even it's kind of a bit out of order to kind of get into the players because I don't think they can do much more than what they can do. They're just not good, They're just not good. No matter some of the ones we signed recently, some of the ones we had previously, they're just not good. It's not their fault. They didn't ask to be signed. And to some respect, I'm even going to go as far as saying, I don't even place that much blame on the manager. He's been disappointing. Amarin's been very disappointing. Don't get me wrong. He came in with a big pedigree. He came in with a lot of swagger, with a lot of bluster, a lot of hype, right? It kind of felt like he's going to be our savior. And he's basically had us maybe finishing in our worst league position ever. And he took over 8 games into the season? That's not good enough. But he's also a manager who plays a particular brand of football that the owners, Ineos, knew that he plays a particular brand of football that requires particular type of players. I'm sorry. If you get a manager like that in and you pay 9 million euros to get him out of his contract at Sporting Lisbon, a quarter into the season, surely you have to support him with transfers. Surely if you're doing that, if you're sacking Erik ten Hag 8 games into the season, you are surely doing that because you want to save the season. You think you can turn it around. Not signing players for Amarin's very specific style of play was a real big mistake. Maybe a bigger mistake than letting Erik ten Hag have another season. Because Erik ten Hag thing, maybe they got giddy. Personally, if it was me, I would have preferred if we let go of Erik ten Hag after the FA Cup final against City. An amazing performance, an amazing win. You shake hands with the board fraud and you say, Hasta la vista, sayonara, baby, Hasta fucking la vista. But we didn't do that. We let him come into a 3rd season. So, whatever. Annoyed, it is what it is. But surely, if you get a manager like Amarin, you have to give him the players. Surely you do. But is he doing a good enough job anyway with what he's been given? Probably not. But going back to the game, strange one because did the goal come? I thought the goal that Newcastle scored, the first goal, I thought set a precedent in my opinion because it was entirely avoidable. Like Newcastle, for all the 4 goals they scored, I think they were all defensive mistakes. Every single one was a defensive mistake, and every single one was preventable, in my humble opinion. So the first goal that Tonali scores, I'm gonna have to say that I put a majority of the blame on Lindelof. Although I know Ugarte lost the ball in the build-up that then led to the goal, I'm going to place most of the blame on Lindelof. Lindelof allowed too much space between himself and Isak, who's on incredible form this season. He let him get away from him. Isak miscontrolled the ball. The ball bounced up in the air, and Lindelof wasn't there, and Isak managed to lob the ball over the top into Tonali's path. You know, a half volley, bang into the bottom corner. In my personal opinion, a striker should never be allowed to miscontrol a ball like that into the air and easily cushion it over the top of the defenders. You should be taking him out. You should be studs up, running into his instep of his foot, giving away a penalty, a free kick, whatever. But you should not let a striker easily miscontrol the ball. It bubbles up and he is able to put. That was a big mistake from Lindelof, and it kind of goes to show, just, you know, it's evident of his, or representative of his entire career at United. He's always a bit slow. He struggles against very physical, athletic players. He's a little bit passive for me, in my personal opinion, when it comes to Lindelof. He's not probably on the front foot, maybe on the back foot a little bit too much, which isn't the greatest way to defend in the Premier League. You need to be on the front foot, aggressive, you know, essentially like driving your flipping cock into the striker's bum. You got to be always on their fucking ass, and he doesn't do that. He's too much softy, you know, playing the person by the side and shit, which I absolutely detest. And we scored a good goal to kind of bring it level. Garnacho scored a brilliant goal. I thought we also did another good move with Bruno and Zertsky that made it look pretty decent. But I thought after the first goal, we weathered the storm pretty decently. We weathered the storm. Newcastle looked like they were going to score another one. We weathered that storm. We scored the equalizer. Garnacho was very, very well taken goal, to be honest. So big ups to him. Outside of it, I think outside of his right foot or left foot, I don't know how he did it, but very, very good finish. And then the second half starts, and we're in the game still. Newcastle haven't really got out of gear 1, but it was a decent first half. It wasn't that bad. Like, it was okay. It wasn't entertaining from our side of things. We didn't hold on to the ball well enough. Ugarte was a bit sloppy in possession, but it wasn't that bad. And then we just get blitzed in the first half. I don't know what the fuck happened on that right-hand side of our pitch. Mazwai does a madness. Dalot does a madness. I don't know what the hell's going on. Dalot shows Livramento down the line, like, as if he's not bow-footed. I don't get that, by the way. Livramento's one of the best fullbacks in the country for me, or in the league. He shows him down the line. He hits the bar line, crosses it, ball in. It goes all the way to one side, back in the middle again, and Harvey Barnes scores 2-1. And in my opinion, at 2-1, I think this game's over, because we didn't really have enough of the spark, and it kind of caught us off guard. But then that second Harvey Barnes goal. Harvey Barnes is a good young player, right? I've always liked him. I've liked him when he was at Leicester. Good English player. But he's no world beater, bro. We made Harvey Barnes look like Kaka reincarnated. We made him look like Kaka reincarnated, the way he tore through the middle of that pitch. Personally, if that was me, if I'm Lindelof, I'm taking that player out. Lindelof looks so slow covering ground to get to fucking Harvey Barnes. I think if that's Maguire, he gets to the ball. He gets to Harvey Barnes and stops him running through. He doesn't. Harvey Barnes goes through, and great finish from him to actually top bins, smashes it. Cool, no problem. And then we continue playing, and one of our best players in Zertsky in the last few weeks, he's one of the only decent players that we have at the moment. He makes a good run, and he pulls a hamstring, because effectively what Zertsky was trying to do was kind of, you know, carry the team, ball carry, was trying to, you know, put some onus into the team. Probably did a bit too much, and he ended up pulling his hamstring, and he's probably out for the season, right? So Zertsky's out. So now we have to rely on Højlund, who's had a horrible season. And he's not in the best confidence. He's not in the best form. Højlund comes on, I think about the 60th minute, just after Harvey Barnes scored, I think so, if I'm not mistaken, or just before. And I don't think he did anything. I swear to God, except for the header at the end, which is a decent chance, Luke Shaw crossed the ball into the box and he did a little glancing header, which I've not seen that from him, by the way, which is, again, I think, defense of Højlund. When has he got the chance to do that, you know? And he's really good at heading, I think so. His heading is very underrated. But when's the last time he's had a cross where he's able to connect to it? We don't put in enough good crosses. We don't put in balls to the top. So a lot of his like poor form, I think, is based on us as a team, as a club, not really having a plan for him. We signed him and we don't really know what to do. And plus, he's whatever how old he is, 20 something years old. He shouldn't be the one that's leading the line at United. He should be an understudy of somebody. There should be an experienced striker who Højlund and Zertsky can both learn off of. The fact that we're relying on those two strikers says everything about where we are as a club. Anyway, he didn't do anything. So the game kind of petered out at the end. Bruno Guimaraes ends up scoring another goal just to kind of, you know, rub more salt in the wounds. But I would go as far as saying that I don't think Newcastle had to do that much to beat us. Really didn't have to do that much. I thought Isak had one of the most quietest games he's ever had. I thought Bruno Guimaraes was also very quiet. Tonali was also very quiet. They didn't have to do that much. They didn't have to do that much. But when the moments mattered, their players obviously stepped up. But we have to talk about Bayinda. We have to talk about Bayinda, man. I'm glad this is happening. I'm glad this is happening because I feel like United fans, and sometimes myself included, which I think I can be reasonable, but I think I've got a tendency to do this too. We love a hero and we love a scapegoat. So I think it was it was deserved. We deserve this. We deserve this because all week we've been giving fucking Onana pelters, rightfully so, for the 2 goals we conceded against Lyon in the Europa League, which were both his fault. He's been getting pelters. He should have been dropped before that. In my opinion, I think he's been terrible this majority of the season. He cost us fucking Champions League football, to be completely honest, but whatever, we move on from that one. So he's been getting pelters. Okay, cool. Onana's out now. He's dropped from the squad entirely. We're not even sure if he's going to play the second leg against Lyon because allegedly the rumours are around Old Trafford, in case you don't know, is that after the 2-2 draw against Lyon, the rumours are that Casemiro and Bruno were about to fight Onana in the dressing room. They had to be pulled apart, hence why he got dropped from the squad entirely. So they were so pissed off with his mistakes that Casemiro and Bruno were about to beat him up. Or they were all going to get into some sort of melee. So he got dropped entirely. Okay, Onana's out the squad now. Bayinda comes in. And apart from some good saves in the first half, Jesus Christ. He didn't get close to any of those goals, did he? He obviously made, I think, the error for Bruno Guimaraes' goal, trying to play out from the back, and it got intercepted by Joe Linton, knocks down, boom, easy goal. And you just look at it and you think to yourself, like, this is where we're at as a club. We have probably 3 of the worst goalkeepers in the league, in Andre Onana, Altay Ben Bayinda, and the third one, Tom Heaton. We have 3 of the worst keepers in the league. So I'm not surprised now. Now it makes sense, to give the manager credit. Now it makes sense why Bayinda has never played in the league. Because I was surprised when I heard that stat. That's his debut in the league. He's never played a single league game. And Onana's not that good. Like I've always said, I don't understand how we have players in our squad that are undroppable when we're 17th or wherever we are. No one in that team should be undroppable. But now we know why the manager doesn't trust these players or doesn't trust Bayinda. Because yes, Onana's bad, but what would you rather? Bayinda or Onana? Probably go with Onana because at least he's got some form he's shown previously. He's been an elite keeper at one stage of his career. He's terrible now, don't get me wrong. Very, very overrated. We probably are going to lose money on him, but you probably would stick with Onana if you had to pick the best of a bad bunch. But again, Bayinda could also be excused because he hasn't really been given a chance. Even though he come back from injury, I feel like he hasn't really been given a chance to really kind of, you know, impress or to get a run of form. But regardless, and then obviously Mason Mount, all those players came on. No, whatever. Long story short, just to kind of wrap this up because I'm bored of talking about this fucking team. Relegation would have been a gift for us. Relegation would have been a gift. We're too far ahead now to get relegated, and the relegated clubs are too shit. We're bad, but we're not as bad as Ipswich and their man. But relegation would have been a gift. If we would have got relegated, it would have been a fucking gift. We would have been able to force the Glazers out. It would have maybe forced even Ineos to leave. It would have made things so much clearer because there wouldn't be as much money to extract from this club. But because there's a lot of money to still be extracted from this club, with us just hanging around in fucking survival purgatory, right? We're not really bad enough to get relegated, but never good enough to do anything in the league. We're just going to keep being in the same position. And we have terrible players that we have to replace. Like I said, I think we need 7 players minimum to replace to kind of get us to the level that we need to be. We're not going to sign 7 players in the summer. I know that, but we need 7. So next season is going to be rough. And if we don't win against Lyon and go through, or win the Europa League, sorry, there's also no Europe, so there's no extra money coming in, which I think is a good thing. I don't understand this whole idea about, oh, we need to be in Europe, This obsession with trophies at this club is fucking bizarre. When we're just not set up to win those trophies consistently, we play horrible football in the first place. Like, I just don't get it personally. But regardless, sometimes you need those things. Cool. But our whole season relies or heavily kind of hangs on this Lyon game. And one thing we know about these players, the bigger the fucking pressure, the more they fucking crumble. So am I hoping or am I expecting us to win a second leg against Lyon? Probably not. Probably not. We're terrible. And I think relegation would have been a gift. But now we're going to be finishing what? However we're going to be, whatever league position we're going to be in. 15th, 16th, 17th, I don't give a fuck. And yeah, man, worst league finish in the history of this club. And for sure, this puts a lot of pressure on Amorim next season. A lot of pressure. Unnecessary pressure too, by the way. Unnecessary pressure because he really should have started next season, right? If you're not gonna give him any money, you're probably better off just like keeping Eric Ten Hag until the end of the season, or at worst, maybe letting fucking Ruben Nistelrooy stay until the end of the season. Getting a manager in from another club, paying the fucking contract out, 9 million euros, knowing that he plays a certain style of play, but not wanting to sign his own play, it's just idiotic to me. It's idiotic. I'm sure there's a reason why, but in my simple brain, it doesn't make sense. And they've set him up for failure. And obviously, he's one guy, so if something does go wrong next season, he's going to be the one to get thrown under the bus, not the ownership, because there's too many of them, right? And they own the club. But he's definitely going to get fired next season. If we start next season off, the first 5 games, if we lose one of those first 5 games, the pressure is going to be so up for him, especially if he gets the players that he wants. Woo-hoo-hoo. So yeah, it's going to get worse before it gets better. I wish I could be optimistic like some United fans out there and have this toxic positivity. I don't see how they have it. I don't see where that comes from. And yeah, man, I guess we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. But Newcastle 4, United 1. Congratulations to them. They're probably going to secure top 4 very soon. And we are languishing. And it was actually a good representation of one club on the way up and one club on the way down. So congratulations to Newcastle. Obviously off the back of the Carabao Cup and that sort of stuff. They're probably on cloud 9. And yeah, man, it's going to get worse before it gets better. It's going to get worse before it gets better. And just for the sake of me checking, where are we in the league actually? Where are we in the league actually? Look how far I have to scroll down. Look at that. That's the PremierLeague.com tables section of the website. Look how far I have to scroll down. Look at that. Look how far I have to scroll down to find my team. We're 14th. We're 14th. Look at that form. Last 5 games. Draw, win, loss, draw, loss. Next game we're facing Wolves. That's going to be a tricky game too because they're on a good run of form. Yeah, they've won the last 4 games. Wolves have won their last 4, and we have one of our last 4. Lost 2 and drawn 1. One team on the up, one team on the going down. Who's gonna win? Especially with Cunha playing up front, who we were heavily linked with. We're probably gonna get battered. But yeah, what a horrible season, man. One absolutely horrendous, truly horrendous season.